Hi, everybody, and welcome to Lunch with Lisa. I'm Lisa Shield, and I do 2 podcasts every week. I do Lunch with Lisa, and then I also do Getting Inside the Right Male Mind with my husband, Benjamin Shield. So please look out for both of those. You can go to Spotify, Apple, and what is the other one? You can go to anywhere you get your podcasts and you can find Dating Without Drama, and that is my podcast. You can also subscribe and like and rate my YouTube channel, and you can get all of these broadcasts delivered right to you through those mediums. So today I have a wonderful topic for you. I want to talk about how something called the optimism bias can ruin your chances at finding love. And I have to admit, this is one of the things that I run into frequently. Every day I do talks with women. I talk with women all over the world about their love lives and why they're failing and what they can do to really turn this around. And I want to start with just saying that we lack realism, most of us, when it comes to finding love. You all have put so much time and energy and devotion, dedication into establishing your careers. And yet, when it comes to love, I will ask many of the women I speak to on the phone, well, what have you done? What have you actually done to get this right? Look at like how many thousands of hours and thousands of dollars have you invested in educating yourself and becoming good at what you do? How many years of your life? If you think about 8 hours a day at a job, week after week, year after year, plus all of your education, plus, the books that you may have read in your field, the journals you read. Think about how much time and energy and money you have invested in your career. And then look at your love life. This is another very important part of life. And for many of us, it isn't working out the way we had planned. That vision that Walt Disney has sold us and all of our, romance novels and all of how it's just going to happen. We're going to become these beautiful, successful, independent women. And then these guys are going to just show up. And they're going to fall in love with us and they're going to want to marry us and we'll live happily ever after. How's that working out for you? I know it didn't work out very well for me. In fact, the more successful I became, the more work I did, the more I perfected all the other areas of my life, the less success I had in my love life. And that just seemed paradoxical to me. It was crazy to think that I had done all of this work to become what I felt really was a fabulous, self-actualized woman, and yet I wasn't finding love. So I tend to be a realist about things. I'm not an idealist. I am very grounded and practical. In fact, most of my clients are in shock when they work with me and they're just like, my God, you are so practical. But it's true. The only way I've ever gotten ahead in any part of my life that wasn't working was by having a come to Jesus with myself and admitting that I had a lot of fantasies about what was going to happen in that part of my life. And I needed to start to take practical, realistic action in those areas. So, optimism bias, what is that? Does anybody know what an optimism bias is? I'm kind of curious. all of you who are tuning in and listening, does anybody know what an optimism bias is? Oh, we have somebody watching from Italy today. That's really great. Thanks, Daniel. It's good to see you. So I am very curious if anybody knows what an optimism bias is. This is so important. 80% of the population of the world lives with an optimism bias. And it's also known as unrealistic optimism or comparative optimism. So I will tell you, an optimism bias is essentially a mistaken belief that your chances of experiencing negative events are lower and your chances of experiencing positive events are higher than those of your peers. So let's try this again. The optimism bias is essentially a mistaken belief that your chances of experiencing negative events are lower and your chances of experiencing positive events are higher than those of your peers. So the human brain is often overly optimistic and it leads us to make poor choices. We do things that can be risky or unsafe because we think that the other guy's going to get cancer from smoking and we're not, right? Or because natural disasters don't happen to us every day, we see them happening to other people, but we underestimate the chances of it happening in our own lives because we are overly optimistic. So if you were asked to estimate how likely you are to experience a divorce, illness, job loss, or an accident, you are pretty likely to underestimate the probability that things like that will ever impact your life. We see other people going through these things, but we don't see them happening to us. And this bias leads us to believe that we're less likely to suffer from unfortunate events and more likely to attain success than reality suggests. So here's an example of this. Even though most people know that the divorce rate is 50%, when asked, most newlyweds said that they thought they had a 0 chance of getting divorced. Even divorce lawyers who know the statistics and deal with it every day underestimated their chances of getting a divorce. So here's what I would say. Even though you've never had a healthy relationship with a man in your life, a relationship that was loving and connected and supportive, where you were true partners and guardians of each other's souls, most of the women I talk to will say, oh, I'm improving with each relationship. I'm learning, I'm getting better, and I feel so optimistic about my future. Meanwhile, all they did in the 20 minutes prior to that was describe to me how they went from one relationship after another and repeated the same mistakes over and over and over again. They picked narcissists. They picked men who were verbally, emotionally, or even physically abusive, who had issues with money. And it wasn't once, it wasn't twice. Over and over and over again, they fell for similar kinds of men. And yet, here they are on the phone with me saying, oh no, I'm so sure that this time I'm getting better. I'm learning from each relationship. And when I ask the question, what if this never works out? What if, God forbid, you keep repeating the same mistakes and missing the signs because you haven't done any work in this area, and you wind up, whoops. I thought that wow, I thought that my computer stopped. And what if you wind up growing old alone? What if you don't get this solved? And all of the women that I talk to will say, oh, I don't want to think about that. That's not going to happen to me. And yet, every day, all week long, I talk to women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s who never got this solved. So the optimism bias affects us, and especially in our love lives. We don't see ourselves as growing old alone, even though we're surrounded by women who are growing old alone. Our mothers, our aunts, our sisters, our girlfriends, the woman at work who's in her 60s and has given up on love and just throws herself into her career or travels the world and refuses to, give in to the fact that she's single and she never had this. But she's resigned. She's given up hope. We see these women all around us, evidence of the fact that not everybody finds true love. In fact, if I'm being very, very honest with all of you, there are more single adult women today than in the history of mankind. Millions and millions and millions of women, beautiful women, talented women, successful women are growing old alone and not finding partners. And it's almost paradoxical because for many of them, the higher they go in their careers, the less likely they are to find partners. So they've shown that I think 30% of women who are highly successful in their careers after I think their 40s find truly well-matched, loving partners, whereas 70% of high-achieving men find wonderful mates. So for women, it's the exact opposite of men. We have less of a chance of being able to find a true partner as we go up and up and up the corporate ladder or the ladder of success, whereas men have a much higher chance of finding a partner. Interesting, right? And we are surrounded by this information, these statistics, and we keep our head in the clouds, and we don't really step back and say, what am I doing here? What am I doing? What could I be doing differently? What could I do better? Maybe I need some help. Maybe, like anything else I do in my life, I need to bring in an expert, somebody who can just help me get this solved. Maybe like I spent thousands of dollars and thousands of hours of my life, years and years developing my career. Maybe, just maybe, it's time to be practical, to let go of this optimism bias and take this seriously. Now, the saddest thing is, I'm going to tell you something very funny about this optimism bias that 80% of the population has. Even when we know the truth, even when we hear the statistics, it only changes our bias a little bit. It's not like people suddenly go, oh my goodness, I've been deluding myself. I need help. I really need to go and just do some serious work in this part of my life so I can learn how to talk to men, how to pick a great partner, how to be more feminine and more playful, how to date online effectively. Because I'm clueless, and the truth is I get on, I get off. I talk to a few guys, I get ghosted, and then I'm done. And it takes me another year to get back on there. Even though we know all of these things, and even if you hear everything I'm saying today, most of you will get off of this Facebook Live and you will go right back to doing what you were doing. Everything that I have just said will only change your bias a little bit, a little bit. Why? Because the part of the brain that deals with optimism is far more developed than the one that deals with pessimism. And so what they did was, scientists, they actually wanted to see if they could change the optimism bias. And so they used, they affected the brain waves by putting a pulse on the side of the brain where the negative, where the negative center of the brain is. And they did it for a half an hour. They created these brain waves, these pulses, and then the person was able to actually adjust their bias accordingly. So it did work. They could shift it, but the part of the brain that actually deals with negative information is so less receptive in most of our brains that we just don't hear it. We hear it, but it doesn't sink in. And that positive part of our brain just glosses over everything. This is really important. This is really, really important because number one, when I talk to women on the calls, on my breakthrough calls, so, if you go and you watch my 45-minute presentation, at the end of the presentation, you can sign up for a breakthrough call with me or a member of my team, and we will talk to you about how my 12-week emotionally naked dating course can change your love life forever. The reason this is so important is because I have to navigate, and my sales team has to navigate your bias, right? We are confronted with this bias day in and day out. And it is very, very difficult for us on a call to be able to break through that bias and help women like you see that all you're doing is wasting time. The most beautiful part of your life is going by. And you are buying into this optimism bias that everything's going to work out, things will be fine, you're going to meet your guy, it's only a matter of time. Meanwhile, you've never had a healthy, loving, connected, committed relationship with a man in your life, in your adult life. Your dating isn't going well. You're going on and off and off and on the dating sites, and you're getting nowhere. You meet a guy, you date him for a few weeks or months, and then he ghosts you, and all you've done is waste more time. And then once you meet a guy you really like, you go nuts. You get anxious, you get nervous. If he texts, if he doesn't text, you're overthinking, you're going nuts. And most of the time, that anxiety or that desire to push men away is pushing men away, right? And so even when you find a guy you like, you talk yourself out of it, or you make him so nuts that he runs for the hills because your anxiety is out of control. And guys, really great guys, they pick up on that. They're looking for it. Believe me, they've been there before. They don't want to deal with it. And the minute they get wind of it, they're gone. They're ghosting you, not because they met another woman they like better, or they're playing the field, or they just wanted sex. A lot of these guys are ghosting because they pick up on these cues and they're out of there. You tell them one time after they may have missed a call. I have a client, lovely woman. I mean, I don't blame her. She's had a lot of disappointment in dating from men, but she had a date set up with a guy, and the guy had to canceled. I don't know if it was the day of the date or the night before, but he said he was really sick and he had thrown up and he didn't feel, he couldn't make the date. He had to cancel, but that he wanted to reschedule. And she was so upset. She couldn't believe he canceled less. He could have told her sooner and whatever. And then, when he finally got on when he got on the phone with her, he explained why he was sick. And then she wondered, well, should I even bother to see him? And she told him she was disappointed that he had canceled, so early, soon before the date. And I can tell you that, that guy, I would be surprised. I mean, he may still go out with her, but it's not good. It is not good. And this is just, I mean, a very common occurrence. He apologized. He told her what happened. I guess it was a friend's birthday and they went out drinking and he got sick. And he did apologize and he explained to her they've never gone on a date before. So, it was going to be their first date. But even after he explained what happened, she still posted a message in our group saying, well, should I still go out with him? I told him I was disappointed. So I share that because these are very, very, very deep behaviors. And, this optimism bias that everything is going to, I'm just going to meet a great guy. If I date enough and I go on enough dates, I'm going to meet a guy who just loves me the way I am. And he's going to accept me. And, we're going to be happy and love each other. And, we'll work through these things because he'll understand me. Don't kid yourself. A guy like my husband, oh my Lord, he would have been gone in a nanosecond. My husband would never have put up with stuff like that. In fact, I'd say somewhere around the 3 month mark, I got upset with him about something. We didn't get into a fight, but he didn't agree with my perspective. And I looked at him and I said, I can just leave. And he looked at me like I had slapped him across the face. And he said, what have we just been doing for the last 3 months? Like I could just leave, right? And it was so, what are the words I'm looking for? So eye-opening. I mean, it was just, I couldn't believe it. And the pained look on his face, of hurt, that I could just threaten to walk out because I didn't like what he was saying, really shocked me, out of this behavior. And I looked at him and I said, oh my God, I am so sorry. Because I could see that he was really serious about our relationship. And I said, I will never do something like that again. I will, it will never happen again. And it never has, ever, because I saw that, I was running. I didn't like what he had to say and I felt threatened and I was just pulling a power trip, but he wasn't going to put up with that. And if I was going to behave childishly and threaten to walk out because he didn't agree with me about something, that wasn't going to fly. So we are really deluded, many of us, myself included, when I was younger. I mean, don't get me wrong. I thought for years and years and years that, I had this optimism bias. I thought, okay, I'm prettier than a lot of other women and I'm successful and I'm world traveled and I'm a catch, right? And of course some fabulous guy is gonna see me and want to spend his life with me. And then I kind of woke up from that delusion and I looked around at my life and I got real. And I said, Lisa, you're 39 years old. How many more years do you want to keep telling yourself that story, that it's just going to happen, that the right guy is just going to see you and fall in love with you? How many more years of your life do you want to waste on the wrong guys, or do you want to get this right? Unfortunately for me, there were no love coaches at that time. 21 years ago, almost 22 now. When I first started dating online, there were not people like me to help me walk through this process. So I didn't have a choice. I had to do this on my own. I had to figure it out. Luckily, I was doing a ton of spiritual work at the time. I was working with Don Miguel Ruiz, the author of the Four Agreements, and I was also getting my master's in spiritual psychology, among other things. I mean, I was doing a lot of different programs. And I thought, all right, I've been building up these amazing spiritual tools for, at that point, it had been 6 years. And I thought, I'm just going to start applying that stuff to dating. And I realized, I was in a meditation meeting. I realized that the journey to find love is really the ultimate spiritual path. We are on a spiritual path when we're looking for love. It's not just about finding a guy or the one or the right guy or, a soulmate. To find real love with a man, with a partner, is the most spiritual thing we do in life. And so I applied all of these wonderful spiritual skills I was learning, and I treated dating as a spiritual journey. And I started to look at who I was being and how I was acting, how I was showing up with men. I looked at my sense of entitlement, how, I just thought, oh, I'm so special and I'm so this and I'm so that. And I deserve a wonderful man. And don't get me wrong, I think all human beings deserve love, that we deserve love, but we have to also be loving. And I had a lot to learn, not just, I had a lot to learn about how to love other people, how to be generous and kind and selfless and grateful. But I also had to learn how to receive love. I realized when I looked around at my life that there were men who wanted to give love to me. They were there. They had shown up in my life, but they weren't good enough for me. I didn't like the way they treated me or came on to me, or, but looking back throughout my life, there were men who wanted to get close to me, who loved me, and who were interested in getting, having a relationship with me. I was just so deeply insecure, and I didn't know how to love back. And so I started to see, once I got past this optimism bias, that I had work to do if I was ever going to have the kind and caliber of relationship I really wanted. So this optimism bias, I would encourage all of you to Google it. I don't remember the woman's name. There is a book about this. There is also a TED Talk that she did on the optimism bias. She's been studying this for years. And it's really important to look at this and start to take responsibility for what's going on in your life, in your love life. Get help. Stop living. It's okay to be optimistic and to believe that you can make this happen. Don't get me wrong. I knew I could make it happen, but I also knew that I needed to do the work on myself if that was going to happen. I had enough evidence from my past and from a 13-year marriage to a pathological liar that this wasn't going to, what I was doing wasn't working, and that I needed to get out there and face this part of my life. And that didn't mean just reading books or, it meant making really deep core changes in this part of my life so that I could attract a wonderful partner. I'm Lisa Shield, and this has been Lunch with Lisa. I can't thank you all enough for being here. I'm going to say goodbye. I have lots of people listening from all over, from Canada, from Illinois, from Italy. It's so nice to see this international audience. Please, 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 please sign up for my podcast on Spotify, Apple, or Audible. Please go to lisashield.com, click the button to watch my free 45-minute presentation. Stay to the end of that presentation. If you want to get on a call with me or a member of my team to discuss how you can let go of your optimism bias and really take control of this part of your life, I promise you, with the right work, with the right help, you can find true love. But for most of us, if we're going to have the kind and caliber of relationship that we're looking for, that we truly want, then we have to develop the skills to do that. That's where I come in. My program, my 12-week course, it is revolutionary. It changes lives. I have hundreds and hundreds of women who are in happy, thriving, successful relationships and marriages because of the work they did with me. If you want to learn more about them, you can go and look at my praise page. Again, that's lisashield.com. I have lots of actual live video testimonials where I interview former clients. Maybe you want to hear it from them. Let them tell you how successful the course was for them. All right, I'm Lisa Shield. I send you so much love. Please come back and also check out the episode I do every Sunday with my husband, Benjamin, called Getting Inside the Right Male Mind. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you next Monday.